Thank you and welcome to A Focus on Careers. Today, our special guest is Matt Carruthers, and he's going to take us through his profession and his career. And thank you very much, Matt, for giving up your time for this very special cause. So,
yeah, no worries, George. Thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about what you do and how long you've been doing it.
So I'm a machine operator, and I'm employed by a civil contractor in northwest Sydney. So we operate heavy machinery, earth-moving machinery on a lot of big bulk earthwork job sites throughout the Sydney district and throughout New South Wales. I've been doing it for about 6 years.
Right, and you say you're a contractor, so that allows you to work for different groups of people. So you get quite a wide variety of roles and jobs.
That's right. So I'm an employee for a company of about 8 blokes, and sometimes we will subcontract to some bigger earthworks companies, and sometimes we will contract our own work.
Right.
Doing subdivisions or farm work or stuff like that.
Okay. So this was your first career, or have you had something else building up to that?
The way I got into it, I finished year 12. I did year 11 and 12, and I did a trade. I knew the corporate sort of area wasn't going to be my game, so I knew I wanted to do a trade.
Right.
Leaving year 12, I still, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I did plumbing for 6 months and didn't really like that. And then I got into landscaping, and I finished my landscaping trade for 4 years. So I'm a qualified landscaper and horticulturist. And after doing that, I sort of made the decision, would I want to sort of do that for the rest of my life? And I did enjoy it, but the answer was definitely no. So one aspect I did enjoy about landscaping and doing all the outside sort of work was, the machine operating, excavators, bobcats, and the rest of it.
Right.
And I sort of found myself starting to apply for a few jobs as a machine operator. And I got involved with some of these big earthworks companies, the big sort of civil mobs. And, started from the bottom. I started as a labourer.
Right.
And before too long, sort of worked my way up and am now a grader driver for quite a well-known company in the Sydney district.
Wow, so that's quite interesting. The transition. I feel that's one of the aspects that I did want to cover in this focus on careers, and that is that careers are not necessarily a linear, straight line, and a lot of people think as you're growing up, that perennial question, what do you want to do? What do you want to be when you grow up, right? And I'm significantly older than you, and I'm still considering what I want to do when I grow up, and trying to tell that, trying to explain that to young people, particularly those in year 11 and 12, moving in, zeroing in on an 8R, thinking that this is going to lead to that, which is going to lead to that. And really, I think from talking to you, it's important to understand that it's good to go into something with an open mind and not pigeonholing yourself into a particular box. Now you've gone into, clearly you've gone into plumbing, and then you've gone into an area that is absolutely booming across Sydney, right? The horticulturalists and landscaping, and found that within there is an aspect to it that you really had a passion for, and you followed that, that's led to what you're doing now. So that's quite interesting, the way you've done that.
That's right. And it was only through testing the waters in a few different areas, like you said. I think I left year 12 and finished year 12, and I was quite stressed over, well, everyone else knows what they're going to do, and here we are still picking eeny, meeny, miny, mo. But I can understand it's a stressful situation, but it was only through testing the waters in a few different areas I sort of found what really suited myself, and I've come a little bit since then to get to where I am now. So yeah.
And how do most people get into this sort of role? I mean, you've come into it through experience and testing waters, and quite frankly, being brave. I mean, a lot of people will complete a course, get certified, and then feel compelled to stick to that, right? Whereas you've branched out. How your colleagues in the industry, how similar sort of progression, or?
Well, the civil construction industry is good in a way, George, where there's lots of different areas you can go in. You can go into machine operating, which is where I find myself. Leadership roles in being a foreman or a site supervisor. Also, engineering, engineering or surveying.
Right. Yep.
Project management, all that stuff. Some people will go to university and do project management, and then once they actually, I know a friend of mine did project management through university, got into his job, hated it, and now he's a surveyor.
Right. Well, yeah.
So there's a few different ways of getting into the industry, and it sort of depends on what you want to do. A lot of people do go to university and do engineering and to do the I suppose the office side of things for civil construction rather than on the ground. But if you wanted to take the path of machine operating or being on the ground, which still has pathways into the other sort of roles, starting from the bottom, finding yourself a job at a civil contractor. It doesn't matter if it's not on the machine straight away. I certainly wasn't, but
right.
Yeah,
I think, and I feel also that's the path with anything really. You've got to start at a low level, and I think that gives you also a broader understanding. So once you attain that senior level, be it senior level on site or back at the office, you have a broad understanding of what goes on from the very basics to the
That's right.
the highest level. I think that gives you a significant advantage then when managing, project managing, making decisions and things like that.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
So what are your main responsibilities? Now, I understood that you operating a grader. Is that correct? Or?
That's correct. That's
right.
correct. Yeah.
So what are the main responsibilities there?
For a grader's sort of, in your own tasks throughout the day of constructing roads and this, that, and the other. A grader is responsible for the job site while the site supervisor is not always there. So apart from looking after my own tasks throughout the day, whether that be putting in sandstone or putting in road base, a grader operator is also, has to be on top of what everybody else is doing around the job. Okay. Sort of the leadership role in machine operating, I guess you could call it.
Right. I mean, there are lots of safety issues as well, I'd imagine, when operating heavy machinery. So coordinating what's happening, and unfortunately, these sorts of industries have, an incidence of injuries and even death. So being on top of that and being able to coordinate who's doing what and where people should be and where people shouldn't be is absolutely key, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I think good communication and camaraderie between the job site. Everyone knows, I know what everybody else is doing. They know what I've got to do for the day, and you don't show up on a job site and just do your job. You got to know, right? He's going to be over here working behind me in the next hour.
Right.
Stuff like that. Everyone's sort of aware of their surroundings, and there's a lot more to it than just doing your job in particular.
Well, that's important. Teamwork clearly is a big part of it. I try to convince my young fellas understand why they do team activities at school, why they have group projects, is to understand the importance of being able to work as a team. And here you are on the ground, real life, exercising that in the real world. So what would your sort of, I'm going to say, your average day, but I guess there is no average day. But I mean, you work at weird hours. Do you have to work when
the civil industry do work quite big hours. For myself, a normal day would be 6:30 to about 5:30.
Right.
And that'll be with one lunch break at 12 o'clock. But normally, yeah, would get to work at 6:30, get the machine ready, have a chat with the lads, well, boys and girls, about what we're going to be doing today and where we're at. Start work at 7, and then get into it, and then 5:30, 5 days a week, and we work Saturdays as well. But
right, wow,
yeah. So
you mentioned there, male and female. That's an interesting. I mean, certainly as we drive around Sydney, particularly northwest Sydney, where there's significant amount of development going on, both construction and roadworks, etc. We're definitely seeing more females on women on site. So have you seen that in your time, and are they operating machinery and those sorts of things? I mean, certainly in the offices, project managers, I think we're seeing more engineering graduates, female graduates, and so this is a great time. So this is not what it used to be, say 40 or so years ago, when you'd see them all men with their blue singlets and cigarette out the side of their mouth and having 6 or 7 beers at lunchtime. Right? The world has changed significantly.
The world's changed, absolutely.
It's become more gentrified,
it's a booming industry, and one I'd absolutely encourage women to get more involved in. In my time, I've seen a lot of girls of all ages, operating machinery, like you said, dump trucks and rollers and even graders as well.
Wonderful.
And it's there's no reason why it has to be a role just for men.
Yeah.
It's good.
That's a good
and like
message.
You said, that's right. And over the last couple of years, a lot more women coming through engineering and the project management side of things as well. So it's the future looks bright for the industry. So would encourage anyone and everyone to get involved.
Well, as I said, certainly in this area, and I think the growth is there. So what would be some of the things some of the problems that you would face on a day-to-day basis at a work site or in your role?
Well, one that would come to mind straight off the bat would be weather. We're governed by the weather, and that's just one of the things that is probably one of the biggest problems that we would have. But from day to day, genuine sort of problems would just be, just time-consuming work, and sometimes maybe a bit of a lack of communication. But something sort of along those lines, I guess.
Right.
You'd say,
I mean, you say weather, and I certainly understand during rain, heavy storms and things like that. But you guys, you people are out there, especially out this way where it gets, into the 40s. There's certainly no respite there. So that's one of probably the occupational hazards of a role like that, operating in the northwest of Sydney or even other parts of Australia in the depth of summer.
Well, I think when it comes down to it, common sense prevails in the heat. If it's too hot to be out on a shovel or something, put your hand up or just say, look, this is unhealthy. But that is certainly a problem that we do have for a few months of the year.
Right.
The wet weather, the last sort of 6 months has, the wet weather's come into play a lot for us. So, as someone who's an employee of a company and still gets paid, wet weather's not as stressful for me as it is for others. But for business owners, if it rains, they're not working. If they're not working, they're not getting paid. Right. So that's one aspect. it's a risk you have to think about if you're going to go down the path of buying your own sort of gear, I suppose.
Yeah, and there are lots of people that do buy their own gear and do subcontracting for organizations. I mean, that with that come the risks, as you said. So, but also the returns are there as well. So tell me, Matt, what do you like most about the role that you're in, your career there?
I think the environment, George. I'm not stuck in the same office for the next 20 years. The environment doesn't get stale. We might be on one job site for a few months, and then, I just did three months in Southwest Rocks on the mid north coast. So, what I like most about it would be, the change of job sites and the change of, you never really get sick of the one place. There's also contractors coming and going, whether they be subbies or other fields involved in the game. So my work colleagues are constantly changing, not through my own company, but guys I'm working with. Every few weeks might be this bunch of subcontractors, and then the next week another bunch. So my colleagues and the environment's not always going to be the same for forever. So
certainly a draw card for a lot of people. I mean, being stuck in an office can be quite soul destroying for some and quite liberating for others. So it's really, horses for courses. And a tough one, but what do you like least about the role, the career?
It is a tough question. I enjoy the industry, I think, and a lot of people would agree that are doing the same game as me. Just the hours, the work to life sort of, ratios. You are spending a lot of time at work, big hours, long days, Saturdays, throughout the summer. That'd have to be what I like the least about it, but it's not. It's certainly not for nothing.
Yeah, and I guess when you switch off, you switch off.
That's right.
Which is good. I was going to ask about the work
life. You make use of that 1 day of rest. You make very good use of that.
I'm sure you do. Now, we've certainly seen a lot of change in the last 10, 20 years or so. But what significant changes, technology or otherwise, have had an impact on your industry?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned the technology there. The technology in civil earthworks at the moment is next to none, and couldn't be more far from what it was 20 years ago. We use a thing called GPS these days, which is blokes used to just use pegs, and surveyors would have to be on the job site all day, every day, working with the guys. But now I've got a computer in the grader which tells me the heights and the levels and the plans of the job as I drive around. So that's an absolute game changer. Yeah. So technology in the industry's come a long way. And to be fair, I probably didn't see enough of what it used to be like to appreciate all the new technology, but I certainly wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was in Leeton last year, southwest New South Wales, and talking to a gentleman who has his own sumo orange farm there, sumo Japanese, and he was explaining to me the advent of GPS technology to go up and down the digging the holes for them. The machine just does it automatically,
that's right.
millimeter perfect. Whereas, and he's been in the game for a long time. So, technology and GPS in particular has been a real game changer, certainly in your industry. So, what advice would you give someone who wants to get into the game?
I think the best advice I'd give to anyone would be go for it, but don't be afraid of having to start at the bottom. I know starting at the bottom can be daunting, but if you stay committed and stay enthusiastic, you'll work your way through in no time.
Right. Well, that's pretty good. And from education perspective, I mean, I know you've gone through year 11 and 12, completed your HSC, etc. But are there, I mean, to drive these, maybe I'm using the wrong word, to operate probably is the right word, operate this machinery, are there certain qualifications that you require, licensing that you need, and the like?
Prior to getting my job, my first job in an earth moving company, I had nothing apart from my driver's license. So everything that I've learned, all the licenses that I have currently have all been in-house, and yeah. So it's a lot. You'll see a lot of job advertisements that will say only if you've had 3 years experience or 2 years experience, and that's sort of why I did have to start essentially on a shovel for the first few months, but yeah, just grew from there, and everything, all licenses and stuff that I've obtained have been in-house, like I said. Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, I know it's a tricky one, but age-wise, I mean, gone are the days. There was certainly an end date to working in that kind of industry in the past, but I think with the advent of technologies we referred to earlier, you referred to as earlier, and the increased awareness of occupational health and safety and things like that, you mentioned the common sense approach to extreme heat and working environment. I think it's given a longer time frame within that industry. Is that correct? Do you see that there? Well, what's the age?
Yeah, there are a lot of well, the age is anyone from 18, 19, just left school, to blokes that are not far off retirement or retiring now, and everything in between. There's a lot of guys that I've worked with who have retired in the last couple of years that have been doing it since they were because their dads did it and because their grandfathers did it. There's also a lot of people in the industry that things didn't work out with what they used to be doing, and they've just got into the game at 40 years old. So yeah, the age, there's no probably median age. I think it's spread throughout, but to get in young would be highly, I guess, looked at for any contractor.
Right. So you've got to, I mean, getting in young gives you a good runway to learn all the basics, and then to have a higher trajectory. But I guess on top of that, it's not just getting in young and hanging in there and then getting to where you want to get. You've got to be part of the team as well. So I'm sure you referred to some of the attributes earlier, but I'd like you to cover those in a little bit more detail. I mean, the attributes, clearly you need to be a team person. You can't be working there in isolation, and possibly you need to be prepared to do things that are outside your job remit or your job description. So what would you consider to be attributes of a successful person in your industry? The key attributes.
Yeah, well, I think handling stressful situations, handling pressure, all in a day's work. It can be quite stressful at times. Being a good leader, but handling but working well in a team, handling your pressure, would all be good attributes to drive your way through the field. I'm just trying to think.
Handling criticism.
Yeah, I think that is definitely a good one, George. And criticism is probably not something I handle great myself, but I've had to learn to you're going to get told from time to time, and that's just how it is, whether it be this industry or other industries. But sometimes it might not be what you want to hear, but it's all to make you better.
So it's constructive criticism rather than
Constructive criticism,
per se, which is
That's
great,
right.
which is really great. So I think that covers a lot of the the aspects to your career and your role. And just some final questions. How do you consider yourself? I mean, you clearly are passionate about what you do. You really like it. You've learned a lot from it. You're enjoying the aspects that it offers you. You're not cooped up in an office. You have a change of environment on a regular basis. You have a change of comrades around you from different situations. So do you see this as a point in your career where you say, I really like this and this is a long-term option?
Yeah, for me, I certainly think it's a long-term option.
Right.
I can't see myself leaving the industry.
Wow.
I certainly don't think I'll drive a grader for the rest of my life. Hopefully, work my way into a maybe project management role
Right.
in the not too distant future. But yeah, I certainly think that while the business is, the industry is booming, and I think it will for a fair while to come. Yeah, I certainly can't see myself looking elsewhere.
Excellent. And just one point. I mean, you mentioned the grader and people. I don't think people fully understand the precision of a grader. It's the machine. It's the equipment itself. Keeping it calibrated. Yeah, you require continuous calibration, and it's really razor. From my understanding, I've never operated heavy machinery. I think. People try to keep me away from the hammer as well at home because I'm just not made for it. I got the cleanest tools in the suburb, I think. But it is precision driven, correct?
That's right. So a lot of the work that we do, to give you an example, we just did a turf farm. We re-leveled the whole turf farm. I think it was about 62 acres. And by the time we finished the job, the whole 62 acres was within 1 mil.
Wow.
And that's to the 1 mil of the design. So that's using the GPS, like you said earlier. And, that's fairly impressive over such a large area.
That is incredible. That really is incredible. I mean, that's where we're getting to. And in the past, it would be meters and meters and meters out. You could absolutely, the old pegs and walking, taking a length, 1 length, 2 length, measuring it by foot. I could absolutely remember my dad doing that, not too successfully, I might add. So these turf farms, are they the ones down Windsor Way, down where that
we did
flooded out?
Just completed recently? We did complete one that was in Windsor just recently. Yeah, it was flooded. I think it had about 2 or 3 meters of water over it. And yeah, so that, just to give you an idea, that was I think he had it as a cow paddock. We reshaped it to be like an AFL field, so the highest point in the middle, so all water would run to the edge of the farm.
Wow. Right.
Yeah, and so now he can, unlike a lot of other turf farmers, can cut his turf in the rain, because his farm isn't going to be water affected. So to have that precision, of the highest point in the middle, and for a farm that was reasonably flat, to have no water holding, using that GPS and having everything to the design level was
I mean, it's significant for the farmers, from a sustainability perspective, and being able to operate the farm all year round. I mean, that transfers into increased money, increased revenue for the farmer, and
that's right,
and the people that the farmer employs, and it flows on and on. So that's
that's right.
That's quite incredible. That's brilliant. Matt, thank you very much for your time. I mean, if people have got questions on the industry, please drop us a line in the comments, and we can reach out to Matt. Maybe we could have Matt back for a further Q&A session. If you've got an interesting career that you want to share with us, or someone who has, drop me a line, and we can possibly set something up for that. So Matt, thank you very much for joining us today, and thank you for your time. I know it's a bit tough at the moment with lockdowns here in Sydney. Hopefully you and your colleagues get back on the road next week as the industries open up again. Thank you for your time. All the best. Stay safe. Cheers. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, George, and good luck to everyone out there who's thinking about giving it a go.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.